Hello and welcome to Rubbin Minds. My name is Hero Daniels. Many thanks for joining us. Since assumption of office, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has implemented a plethora of policies aimed at revitalizing Nigeria's economic and social landscape. Now, two notable decisions were the removal of fuel subsidy and the flotation of the naira. Now, as great as Mr. President's intentions are, the effects have been increased debt burden to a tune of 121 trillion naira, rising inflation, and unequal distribution of resources. You would agree with me that fuel prices have risen faster than Ijebu Gari. The NNPC sells at 897 naira per litre, with many filling stations selling above 1,000 naira. This has caused further surge to the price of goods and services. Small businesses are struggling. The middle class no longer exists. It's either you're rich or you're poor. The good side to this, some may say, is that there is reduction in traffic as many people cannot afford to drive their cars. Marriage lists now include gallons of fuel. So if you wanted to get married, instead of buying kola nuts to give to your future father-in-law, just buy 50 liters of fuel and you're good. As Nigeria navigates this complex landscape, it is very crucial to examine the impact of Tinubu's policies on the country's growth, exploring both the successes and the shortcomings. So to discuss bad politics, to discuss President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policies and the growth of Nigeria, I have with me in the studio a business strategist, Oluwashino Akinremi. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, nice having me.
Yeah, also joining us virtually is an African affairs analyst in the person of Anoba Ibrahim. Welcome to the program as well. So we're going to dive straight into it. I'm going to start with you, Shino. Okay. Where are we as a country? You know, we've seen a rise in inflation. We've seen a rise at the fuel prices. How did we get here?
Okay. Yeah, nice, Rubens. Basically, like you've already said in your intro, there are two key things that have basically brought us to where we are. In as much as these two policies are needed by Nigeria as a country, however, I think we should understand the important thing we should be looking at is, are we ripe for those policies? Was it implemented in the right way? So, talking about these two things, we need to be looking at the subsidy for removal and also the flotation of naira. In as much as removal of subsidy is a very brilliant idea that needs to happen at one point in time as a country. However, the how and when was a major key, which I think has been a major bone in the neck of everyone in the country. So basically these two, and also removing subsidy and at the same time floating your naira, Nigeria, the economy does not seem to be ripe for those two policies at the same time. So those two policies has a ripple effect on what we are seeing today as a country.
So the argument was, the reason why we want to take out this subsidy is because we want to use this immense money that has been benefiting the elites and invest in infrastructure. That was the whole idea. That was the reason why the presidency decided to take away the subsidy, so that they can invest in the infrastructure. And, you know, the president keeps saying that we need to take the hard decisions so that we can move the nation forward. Now, do you think that that money has been well invested?
Now, so thank you. It's well said that subsidy money needs to be removed and invest in the right sector, like our education, healthcare, and the likes, just for the overall good of the nation. However, we should be asking ourselves, where are we? What has been done? Recently, there has been a lot of issues there and there around the government still paying subsidy. So the question is that there is a lot of unclarity, uncertainty around this whole subsidy issue. And also the transparency by the government around it is a key factor. So which has kind of played a major role as to how the citizen perceive what's going on. So one thing is that policy might be good, policy might be right. The question is, how are these policies being communicated? How are they being implemented? What's the posture of the government in ensuring that the citizens are on the same path with them? Making a decision is part of every country that need to make. But the question is that how are those decisions being taken? What's the transparency of the government around those making decisions? I think though these are some of the few concerns that we need to look at.
Let's hear what Ibrahim has to say. Ibrahim, what are your thoughts on President Ahmed Bola Tinubu's economic policies?
Thank you, Hero. So it's not too much of a rocket science that subsidy at some point had to go. I think what is now a question is, it's been how many months now since the removal of subsidy? what we need to ask ourselves, and of course, Mr. President, is where are those monies that were saved apparently? Where are those monies? Because they were supposed to be reinvested into the economy, into infrastructure, into healthcare and education. But I do not think Nigerians will be asking too much questions if we are visibly seeing the effects of those saved money. So if the president will be able to tell us how much has been saved, in what way have those been spent judiciously, I guess it's going to offer some succor to Nigerians. But if we cannot see that, then I think it's going to be a problem regarding how efficient has the removal of subsidy been. But also, what about the palliative that were said to be given to the states or to some leaders across the country to ease the pressure on Nigerians? I do not think many of us will agree that those palliative have gone to where they should go. If anything at all, we've had numerous stories about the politicization of those palliative measures. And as much as the spotlight is on the president as well, I think the governors also need to be asked many questions because there are numerous measures within each state government strategy book that is supposed to alleviate or ease many of the problems we are seeing now that the subsidy has been removed. So as much as we want to blame the president, I think the governors also need to look clearly at themselves.
All right, and that was a very well put together thought. I would just want to speak to another analyst. Joining us is a policy analyst, Chike Chude. Welcome to the program. So, Chike, I'm going to dive in head straight. I'm going to dive in head straight. You just heard Ibrahim say that the removal of subsidy wasn't really the issue. The issue is how has the money that has been saved been implemented. In fact, if there's anything, our debt profile has actually gone up to 121 trillion naira as opposed to going down. So, what do you make of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic policies?
The removal of the subsidy is a problem. I respectfully disagree with my colleague at the other end. It's a problem, and that is the opinion of most Nigerians. And that's why a lot of Nigerians are saying, that there should be a reversal. And again, don't also forget that when the president made that statement, subsequent revelations showed that the president, that the APC, what they had in mind was not that level, that removal of the entire subsidy regime, whatever it was at that time, that it was supposed to be done in phases. But the president, perhaps carried away by the moment, announced, removal completely. Now, you ask yourself whether a lot of thought had went into this before the president made that statement, because you're talking about policy, a very serious, policy decision. Now, when policy is being made, there is a basis for that. You must have looked at it in so many ways, and looked at the pros and cons, the downside and then the upside and the rest, and then on that basis you make your decision. And so, for the president to have just gone there and then just made that statement when it was not something that was agreed, that led to.
Now, let's look at the areas in the economy where would say that President Tinubu has improved. Now, is there any area? So let's even talk about what the government has done right. So is there any area you think that the presidency has actually really worked on and we're seeing the results?
Okay. Yeah, to me, I think I will say let's look at it. I've seen some of the conversations around insecurity, trying to redesign the securities architect, then also the conversation around state policing is also a highly welcome initiative in the midst to curb the insecurity that we are having in this country. However, as good as some of these conversations are, as good as some of these ideas are, the question is that have they really translated into anything that the common man can see? We are seeing a lot of kidnappings here and there on a daily basis. It seems as though things are not being done at all. So we could see that there are some ideas on the table by the government, there's some conversation around all these areas. But the question is that these things are yet to yield the fruit that every common man could say, thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm going to get back to Chike Chude. So let's pick it up from where you left off. So you're of the school of thought that... yes, continue, please.
Yeah, I think there was... I think there was network issue. So look, the reality is that everything that has happened in the country is as a result of that, one sentence statement by the president. Subsidy is gone. Every other thing, every crisis that you are seeing in this country, the cost of living crisis and so many other associated issues, the cost of transportation, the cost of basic food items and all that, everything is as a result of that. Because it was something that was, I believe, not thought out. When you consider the poverty level in this country, there are certain decisions you cannot take because that decision led to a five-fold, sometimes in some instances, 6-7-fold increase in the prices of goods and services. And so there's no way you're not going to have the kind of serious economic disparity and increase in poverty that you have in this country. So that is the basis. So the first one is the removal of subsidy is the first, that led to all of this. And then the second, that's where I would agree with my colleague from the US. When he said something about, the implementation, what you use with the money. Nigerians have not seen anything tangible that they have done with this money because what they've always told us is that once you remove subsidy, everything, all the monies that are realized will now be used for other social services. So what are these social services that they have been used on? How have the lives of the people improved? We are in an unprecedented situation. People cannot buy medicines. They cannot go to the hospitals. They have to resort to traditional, native doctors. Some of them, have to use agbo and all of that for treatment. Now, that is the level of poverty that we're in today. So everything that the government has done, in terms of the economic policies of the government, are you talking about the exchange rate? And the government seems, look, it is not as if the government wanted the naira to get to 1,500 naira, 1,600 naira to the dollar. They did not want it. And they have been doing everything to ensure that there is stability in that level and that we have a more favorable exchange rate. It has not worked simply because they don't know what to do. They have tried everything in their alchemist lab or wherever it is, and they don't seem to know what else to do. And so the lives of Nigerians have depreciated. And then beyond that again, I think I met, when I got back, somebody, you are talking about the issue of insecurity. You cannot talk about insecurity without talking about the poverty level in this country. And why do you think that most of the countries in Africa, especially in West Africa, have serious security challenges? If it is because of the poverty level, you don't have that in Europe. Where the cost of living is exceedingly very high. So you don't have all of these issues except random shootings here and there and acts of violence that are not related to economic disparities. So these are some of the things that are happening. And so nobody can say, and the president, we shouldn't hold brief because nowadays we tend to have, this desire to want to hold brief for the government at the end of the day. Provide excuses for them. It is not in our place to provide excuses for those who went to the people and said, look, let me, President, elect me governor, I have a solution to your problems. And then when they don't provide this solution, we are providing excuses for them. After all, the president said, do not provide excuse for me. He said, I asked for the job. Do not feel pity for me. So why are we suddenly beginning to feel pity for the president? Thank you.
So Achike, I'm just going to have a follow-up question to that. I mean, we've seen that the presidency has eventually, giving Dangote the crude that he's been asking for, sold the crude in naira. Do you think we might see any improvement in terms of maybe the fuel cost coming down with the Dangote refinery, loading up trucks as we speak?
There's too much controversy attending the Dangote refinery, too much controversy, where you have, government agencies trying to undermine one of the biggest investments in the history of this country that is supposed to have helped provide some kind of level of cushion for the country if they become operational. These are some of the things, and then back and forth, Dangote, say the stories that we're hearing that Dangote wants exclusive lifting of the crude oil by the NNPC, and then the NNPC saying, no, we're not going to lift unless it is cheaper than the international price, which makes some sense, and then the independent distributors also being involved in this back and forth. So there seems to be a lot of confusion surrounding that. But don't forget what the former spokesman of the president said. That is the media person of the president said, Ajuri Ngelale, at a time when people were expecting so much hope from the government, about what the Dangote refinery would do to the country, provide exchange, proper, foreign currency for us, reduce the disparity between the naira and the dollar and all of that, and give us a more favorable exchange rate and all that. So that was what. But he said maybe perhaps not to allow us with this feeling of euphoria. He said, look, that there will not be any major change, even in the price of the price of PMX at the pump. That if there will be, it is going to be exceedingly very, very marginal. And so marginal means that you will hardly notice it. So if from your question, I'm not sure that we can actually say that Dangote refinery coming on stream will bring any desired change, because I'm not sure that is what it is geared towards now.
All right, we need to hear the thoughts of Ibrahim now. Ibrahim, what do you think we need to do as a nation, and what do you think the government needs to do? Because it's becoming really terrible. What is the way forward?
Well, this is a problem of multiple layers. Of course, certainly there is a problem with the presidency and the whole removal thing and what has been done with the removal, with the removed monies. But there's also the question of what different aspect of the Nigerian government can do. What are the state government doing? What are the local government doing? And certainly, as Mr. The speaker before me said, things have not been super rosy since the removal. In fact, since the president took power, petrol went from 200 to about 1,000 now. Inflation 22% or 23 to about 34% now, and it just seems to be worsening as we proceed. So there's clarity in the fact that things cannot continue to go the way it is. If anything, it's going to become much more worse. So the question is then, what do we need to do? We've seen the president go to China. Maybe there's some conversation going on about how the Chinese government can hear some of this relief effort, the Nigerian government's relief effort. But we've seen the president make some of these trips and nothing has materialized as a consequence. Then is it then going to be time for us to question those within the president's economic circle who are advising him about the different economic steps he needs to make? And I know people have talked about Mr. Wale Edu and I forgot the name of the other person advising him regarding the economy. But these are brilliant people. It's just kind of interesting to see how things has not worked under these intelligent men. So it then raised a lot of suspicion about, is there a deliberate sabotage of the president's efforts ongoing? Or if not, then what are the new courses the president has to take? But I don't think the president has made any kind of attitudinal change to suggest that he's ready to embrace any suggestion about radical economic reforms, apart from those being pushed to him by people in his circle. So I guess it's a matter of humbling yourself as the president and also seeing that you need to not only listen to the people, because apparently the government is apparently not listening to us. Not only do you need to listen to the people, but you need to change course radically. You can't keep borrowing money to trying to save ourselves. We are raising our debt profile, as you said earlier. The palliative measures are not showing up. The role of subsidy is pretty much now eating up itself. We agreed at some point that it had to go, but now people are calling for it to return. So it just seems as though you need to change course radically. And is the government ready to change course and be humble and accept its faults and add new measures? And that's the question we need to ask ourselves. All right,
Shino, thank you very much. Pardon me. All right, Ibrahim, thank you very much. Shino, I wanted to get to you quickly. It's terrible. In fact, recently, the Lagos state government had to increase the boarding fees from 35,000 to 100,000, and a lot of people are having an outcry about it. What do you think we can do, especially to the areas that affect our young ones, like education and so many other things? What do you think the government needs to critically do to make sure that the young ones don't suffer?
Yeah, I think one thing that we need to first ask ourselves is that we need to basically go back to what led us to all this. like we've established subsidy removal and flotation of the currency. So we need to go back to the major one for me, which is the subsidy removal. The government needs to complain. There needs to be a lot of transparency and clarity and proper communication. We need to know, are we paying subsidy? Is subsidy gone? If subsidy is gone, what are the savings that we are getting from these subsidies? With these savings, what's the clear path for it? So there needs to be a proper clarity and the communication by the government. So because it's just like a saying that say, if tough decisions are to be made, however, the government must also lead by example. So if we want to do all this, we need to see the actions from the government, not just in saying, but also in doing. But wrapping up your question, we need to first start by doing a lot of a policy on imports recently is good. This import relief policy that government just
opened up the borders.
Yeah, that's a nice policy, but it should be extended for a longer period so that will kind of cushion the effect of some prices for the common man. Then also we need to ask ourselves the sincere question around insecurity as it affects our agricultural produce in this nation. We need to be clear, because if we once we eradicate the insecurity affecting the agricultural produce, that will have a huge relief on our inflation number.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the inflation number, it is a mix of cost pull and demand pull inflation that we are currently having as a country. So we need to look at all this dynamism and see how we can start. One thing is clear: sincerity and transparency.
Okay.
So the government needs to come clean and communicate accordingly and start looking at how to resolve this key area. Agree to ensure that people, common man, get goods. Then also looking at the infrastructure around agriculture, like the value chain around the agricultural area, because one major key issue here is that transportation of even the farm produce. So there are like so many issues. The farm produce itself, the harvest is not as what it used to be because the farmer can't really do much because of insecurity. The little one that they are not still doing, there is no enough road network to even transport them. So a lot of damages is even happening from the little one. So all this, we have a ripple effect on the supply side and having huge effect on the price. So it's what I'm saying. So we need to take it one after the other. Transparency and start looking at these key issues. To me, which I see as a low-hanging fruit.
All right. We need to quickly sample the final thoughts of Mr. Chikechude. You are very much in tune with what is happening, and I can see from the passion in your voice and the way you speak and the facts that you're stating that you're very passionate about this country. So, what do you think the presidency needs to do urgently? If you were to speak to them directly, what do they need to do urgently to just take us out of this problem?
Look, my brother, I don't know what else I can tell them or what I can tell them to do. Look, if it's about movement, they are making movement. But there is a statement, something that people describe as making movements without motion. So the government is making movement, but the motion is not, a proper outcome of that movement. They have talked about palliatives. They have released lots of money for palliatives. They have done. So these are things that they are doing. So nobody can accuse them actually of doing nothing. But the reality is that whatever it is it's not working because of the fundamentals. They have not addressed the fundamentals. But beyond that, again, is the fact that there is a social consequence to the poverty and in the land. And that consequence is what translated into protest by Nigerians across the country. And so the response of government has not been fantastic. You agree that the baby can has a right to cry. or that the baby can be beaten, but that the baby should not cry. That is where the problem is. The people cried during the protest and the rest, and then a lot of them have been arrested as a consequence of that. If the police wants to do their investigation and that some people committed certain, crimes, let them. We're not saying don't do your job, but there are too many innocent people that are under incarceration today. That will fuel a lot of public anger against the government. So the government needs to show some magnanimity that these people would not have protested, because it is just that the hunger, their stomachs are making demands on them, and they are responding to these demands. So the government, I will need the government, for me, if you ask me, to show some clemency and to ensure that people who did not do anything should be removed, should be released forthwith immediately. That will go a long way in perhaps giving the people a different vibe about perhaps what the government is ready to embrace. Certain things that are going on within the economy. It will be good for the government. And then as for the other issues, like I said, the government needs to go back to the drawing board. A lot of the things that the government is doing is absolutely not working, and it's not likely going to work unless they go and begin to tackle the fundamentals. This issue, lastly, of everything the World Bank tells us, of everything the IMF tells us, has put a lot of countries in trouble. Look at what is happening with Milei of Argentina. He came in with people would describe it obnoxious economic policies and all that, contrary to the dictates of the World Bank, the IMF. And he was able to make some successes with a bit of pain, but at least people are seeing, these things. So the government needs to go back and say, look, perhaps we can do these things differently.
Thank you very much, Achike Chude. Thank you so much, Oluwashino Akinremi, and of course, Anoba Ibrahim, for coming to the program. Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Rubbin Mind continues. Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show and prove. Welcome back to Rubbin Minds. Before we went on the break, we were discussing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policies and how it's affecting the growth of the country. Right now, we want to delve into an industry that, despite every single thing, despite every single challenge that they've experienced, they've managed somehow, the people in the industry has managed to thrive, and that is the entertainment industry. We're going to be discussing Afrobeats in particular, the music industry. We've seen our artists winning the highest awards at the highest levels, from Grammys, even down to obviously the Headies, in our local, in our country. And you just really want to talk about the evolution of the Nigerian music. And with me, I have a culture consultant who is an expert and an authority in the music business, Jide Taiwo. Welcome to the program.
Oh, hi. Thanks for having me.
All right. So
good to be here.
Yes. Let's talk about Afrobeats. I'm just going to jump heads in.
Yes.
You've seen so much growth in such a short time, and it's almost unbelievable. In fact, Afrobeats is considered African music, and of course it originated from this country. Even other people from other countries that are not obviously Nigeria are flying the Afrobeats flag, and the whole world recognizes Afrobeats. How did we get here?
I mean, it's the combination of many years and many people and, many careers, this current space. I like to think of it as contemporary popular music.
Yeah.
Right. When D'banj or Two-Face were making music, they still make music, but, when they were at their peak, their music wasn't necessarily called Afrobeats. Right. So this Afrobeats era that we're in now is a result of many years of people as far back as the mid-90s, folks like Kenny Ogungbe, who used their TV platform to give voice to an emerging generation of Nigerian, youngsters who wanted to make music. So now that you have this global acclaim that Afrobeats is enjoying now, it's important to also remember that it's a result, it's an evolution. This is the latest evolution of that thing we've been doing for many years. But it's heartwarming, and like you mentioned in your remarks, despite whatever is going on in Nigeria, the entertainment, the music, the film, entertainment in general, the culture scene in general, appears to always be that thing that Nigerians can lean on, whether for good or for bad. If you're upset, you listen to music. If you're happy, you listen to music. And it's heartwarming to see all of this progress being made.
All right. So what would you say has contributed to the popularity of the genre
now?
Globally?
The time was right. And the combination of many things. So where we had maybe 10 people who could make music in the mid-90s, by the mid-2000s, we probably had 50. Now, in the 2020s, we have countless. And the barrier of entry is kind of lowered. You know, you don't need to pay for an 8-hour studio session, which was a thing some 20, 25 years ago. For you to record a proper song or track, you needed to lock yourself up in the studio and get it done. Now you can do it under your staircase, right? The explosion of social media has also helped. But most importantly is the relentless Nigerian spirit. There's something about us that just gives us that drive. Now that we've channeled it in the music, when we had the same attention in our sports, we could see how what we did in sports. And when we kind of like looked away from it, we've seen the results. So for the music itself, you know, all of these things and the just unbreakable Nigerian spirit that is inspired by many things across the world, but is insistent on getting it done and getting it right properly. So that's kind of like the thing that is driving the movement nowadays.
All right. Also, I was in India last year, and I noticed that because I was hosting Zee Cine Awards, it's a big award show in India, and then somebody just walked up to me and started singing, "Baby, Calm Down." So it was the biggest song in India as at 2023.
Right.
Because how did that happen? Like this is a country that they don't even speak English as a major language. You know, there's Hindi that is a major language there. So how is it that we're being able to cross the borders that way?
By just grinding and doing our things. It's funny that you mentioned India. My mother remembers Love in Tokyo from the 60s and 70s. You know, we are not Indians, but somehow that crept into our space. It's kind of like how the music itself has gone towards all parts of the world. But it's important that it's not just an accident, right? The music is enjoyable, right? Nigerians are charismatic, and it's almost a given that if you listen to a Nigerian song, either by paying attention to the melody or we just beat you over the head with it until you get it, it's that irresistible feature that Nigerians generally have. So when you go to places like India, and we've yet to crack those parts of the world, you know, we have yet to cross into Korea. It's unimaginable what awaits us when we're able to make all of this, you know, inroads into places apart from the US and Europe.
All right. Now there's an ongoing conversation that as much as we're happy with the growth of Afrobeats, that we're losing our structure in terms of we're losing the power to own our catalog, as most of our big artists are being bought over by the Universal Musics. And so practically we enjoy the benefits of being global, but some heavyweights in the Western world are claiming ownerships to our catalog and our music, which will be a problem in the future. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it just means that we have to put our money where our mouth is, or put our monies where our dancing shoes are, right? I mean, if I'm a Universal and I've invested X million of dollars in artists A, B, C, D, right? Of course, I want to own that. What that just means is that the music industry itself, you know, now in Nigeria, Nigerians have to build something that is worth staying at home for, right? I mean, if all of these majors own all of this publishing, and I was in a conversation a couple of days ago, the biggest artists in Nigeria, that catalogs are owned by foreign entities, right? But that means that there's an opportunity for local investors. Yes, we've tried. It's kind of like how it says in the Bible, hitherto we have gotten this far, right? We've built it up until this point. To scale, we need to make commensurate investment, you know, as the Universals, the Empires, the Def Jams, all of these people are doing. Otherwise, we'll see what happened in the 90s. At some point, all of these majors, Sony, Philips, all of them just upped and left, right? And then that gave birth to the Kennys, the Dove Records, all of them. That's what we need to build in this second phase of Afrobeat. So it's crucial that people in business, it's crucial that people in government that can make policies look at entertainment as important as the oil sector, for instance, because it's creative, it's a creative industry. And we've seen how much it can generate. The Taylor Swift concert tour in the UK was said to have added about 200-300 million to the London economy. Those are things that are mind-blowing if you see it happening abroad. But those are things that can happen here. When we say we are doing Afrobeats to the world and we are selling out the O2s, yeah, but of what benefit is it to me if I'm just an up-and-comer in Ketu, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm a hotelier in Surulere, if somebody sells at the O2, how does that add value to me? So those are things that we need to build to ensure that while this Afrobeats is to the world, the gaze should be looking internally, not just external. Because at the end of the day, the world is a fickle place. If we don't deliberately own this now, the momentum will shift, the world moves on to something else. It's happened with reggae. It's happening with reggaeton. K-pop is in this place now. So it's important that now that we have the attention of the world, we use Afrobeats as a tool to build something more lasting for all of us.
You know, speaking about Afrobeats shifting and the attention shifting, Tyler was at the VMA and she actually won the category for Afrobeats.
Right.
And then she made a statement that, yes, there are different genres, there are different kinds of music in Africa, that she represents Amapiano.
Right.
What do you think of that?
I mean, I can't hold anything against Tyler. It's not her fault that she made a sound and it was world over like that. And I respect our bravery to be able to say, yeah, I acknowledge this, but this is what I am. This is what I think us as Nigerians also need to do for ourselves. Personally, I've long been a believer in the fact that the Afrobeats itself is sort of like a misnomer. It's insufficient to describe everything that is Nigerian music. You know, like we said, if D'banj was making Tongolo in 2004 and it wasn't called Afrobeats then, does that make it less of an Afrobeat song? Does that make it popular music? Does that make it contemporary music? So you have all of these things that we as ourselves need to figure out what we want to do. Do we need to codify what an Afrobeat song needs to sound like? If you listen to heavy metal, right, or rock or country music, there are elements that are consistent in the development of these sounds. Do we need to invent or codify something that make it qualify as Afrobeat so that if Drake makes an Afrobeat song, it doesn't make Drake less of a rapper, right? So if Fireboy makes an Arabic song, is it R&B? Is it Afrobeat? Those are elements that we also by ourselves need to figure out and fashion up ourselves.
All right, let me just have your final thoughts on what the future of Afrobeat is.
It's never been brighter. If you look at the way the world is positioned now, I'm old enough to remember when folks used to buy internet hours. You know, you pay 300 naira or 400 naira to browse for 1 hour. Now, my kids know how to run their iPads by themselves. With the benefit of technology, there's no limits to what our music industry, our entertainment industry, our culture industry can do. So yes, with the benefit of all of these things and the right resources, I mean, we're reaching $1 billion.
All right. Thank you very much, DJ Taiwo, and I hope that we'll be able to have as much percentage as possible from $1 billion.
It's important.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
All right. Rubbin Mind continues after this break. Stay with us.
Don't just stand there teasing me. Now it's time to show and prove. Really.
Welcome back to Rubbin Minds. We've been having an amazing time right here on this program. First, we started with the policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and then we moved on to how Afrobeat is really making Nigeria proud, and of course Afrobeat to the world. And right now we want to inform everyone, especially the young people, how you can actually make a lot of money with an emerging industry that is really employing a lot of young people all over the world, which is the content creation industry. And with me in the studio, I have a sensational content creator that has transcended lots of platforms from TikTok to Instagram to Facebook, and she's doing really, really well in that field. Celine Okam, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
How you
Hello,
doing?
good afternoon, everybody.
Oh, you look really great in person as well.
Thank you.
Yes, you look as fine as your content.
Thank you.
Okay, so what inspired you to start content creation?
Okay, first and foremost, I would say my passion. My passion inspired me to be a content creator. I remember when I was in my university days and I had no one to look up to. I had nowhere to go to. I just had one particular person that pushed me. I would say she inspired me, and that's like my best friend. Her name is Nesidu. Shout out to her. So she really inspired me because when I finished school, I didn't really know my focus. I didn't really know what to do as an individual. So she was like, "Guy, I got this tripod for you. I noticed you like making videos of yourself and all that, so just do it." So that's like the only person that inspired me. And the fact that we live in a country where you have to, like, you don't really have to depend so much on people. You have to work for yourself at some point. So yes, so all that inspired me. I just didn't want to like be in a situation where I would have to depend on someone. So the fact that I'll have to entertain people and all that, I just go with that.
That's amazing. So now let's talk about, like, there are lots of young people that want to get into content creation. So at what point does one's content start going viral?
Okay.
Is there like a timeline to it? Because a lot of people are wondering, like, I've been creating content for years, I've been creating content for the past 6 months, or how long they've been doing it. So at one point would you know that, okay, this content will go viral?
Okay, first and foremost, I would say there is no timeline to you getting to the top. You get, as I'm sitting here, I think I haven't really gotten to the top yet, but I'm still pushing. But there are a few tips you can use as a content creator to actually get to the top and get your content out there. First and foremost, you need to like know the type of content you want to create. You need to know your niche. You need to brand yourself as an individual. So when I talk about branding, there are a whole lot of niches out there. We have fashion, we have beauty, we have comedy, we have cruise, we have a whole lot of things. Like, the sky is big. So you just have to pick your niche. When you pick your niche, you make sure you come out with creative ideas. I'm the kind of person that I'm very creative, I'm really, really confident about that. I can be put in a particular room and, okay, make use of this word, and I would come up with something ASAP. That's my kind of person. So you just have to look for your niche, be creative with it. When you're creative with it, be consistent with it. Trust me, there is no timeline. You may just stay and post a video and it will go viral. You won't even know that particular content is going to go viral. Just keep hitting the net. Consistency. If you stop, people will forget about you and someone else will be out there. So it's kind of competitive, but you just have to like be pushing yourself out there. Like, keep pushing yourself, and then you evolve. Knowing fully well that we live in a society where different trends comes up. Like, we have different people coming today. Someone will do like this, tomorrow someone will do like this. Like, there are different trends coming up. So as a content creator or as an online sensation, you have to like be out there. Keep pushing, keep evolving. Like, okay, for this week, I noticed that I have been doing so much of dance. And yesterday I was just like, I need to change. I need to think of something different, how to hit them.
Okay.
Because I don't want to be in a particular spot where So
we have about 3 minutes to the end of this particular segment, and there's so much that I'd like to talk to you about. But is there like a syllabus? If you want to study medicine, there's a syllabus.
Okay.
So is there some sort of structure or some sort of method that a creator can use to stay consistent, to avoid burnout, and to ensure that they are in this game for a long time? So what's that structure? What's that strategy?
Okay. For me, personally speaking, I feel like I'm a natural talent, So to me, all I have to do is just to sit down and think. Trust me, it's just to sit down and think. To me, I don't know for others, but to me as a creator, I can just sit down and think. I have to think so hard to come up with ideas. I have to think so hard to come up with things I can use to create good content for people to consume, because we have lots of hungry audience, trust me, and they can get used to a particular stuff and get tired the next day. So I have to think hard. I think it's just creativity.
Okay, so
creativity and having
the first
a team.
step is thinking.
Yes.
So when you think, do you script it down?
Yes. I script it down, try to involve my team into it, and then execute.
Celine, yes. So very quickly, we're out of time, but I really need to finish up the conversation with you. Sure. So you were saying, so you think of the idea, you script the idea, and then you execute.
Yes.
That's your process.
That's my process.
Amazing. So tell me, like, for the people that really want to create content, what should they do in the next coming months?
Okay.
How do you start off? Because starting off could be a big issue. Someone might have the passion, but they don't know how to start.
Okay. It's a very big issue, trust me. Becoming an online sensation, it's exciting, but challenging too, So in as much as the glamour and everything, there are a whole lot of things behind the scenes, and I would really, really advise you guys as content creators or upcoming, inspiring content creators to be consistent. Just like all what I've said, it's like a summary. Look for your niche, be consistent with it. Try to think out of the box. It helps. It has helped me. and it's still helping because I haven't really gotten to where I want to be.
Yeah.
So think out of the box. Okay, if you see people doing this, you can do this. You get, that's what sells for me.
All right.
Be different. Let people know you for who you are. Bring the real you. I know some people have these privacy rules and all that, but at least let people see who you are through your content. You get, be consistent. Just keep doing your thing. People are watching. You get, I didn't know I was going to be here. People are watching.
People are watching.
Just keep being you. Keep doing your thing. You're going to spend money. Just know you're going to spend money to make money. You're going to spend money, but you need to make sacrifices. You need a team. You need people you love around you, because sometimes it can be depressing, honestly
All
speaking.
right. Thank you very much for coming on the program. We've had such a fantastic time on Rubbin Minds. My name is Hero Daniels, and still catch you next week. Same time, same station. Have a good day.
I wanna get with you. Don't just stand there teasing me.